Hi, I'm Lucas Santana.
I'm Jon Boyle.
And I'm Kaitlin Bruder.
We're the Writer's Room for Rule of Lore, a community and story-focused RPG channel. In May of this year, we began streaming our actual play show, Dungeons and Dorm Rooms. A lot of people have expressed an interest in watching the show, but haven't had time to catch up. With events quickly ramping up in D&DR, the Writer's Room wanted to make a season recap video to tell the story so far. Maybe you've heard about our show and are curious to know what's been going on since the beginning, or maybe you're a regular viewer in need of a refresher. Or quite possibly you've stumbled upon this video through whimsical internet clickery and have no idea what's going on. Whatever your reasons for being here, we hope you'll enjoy this first ever episode of the Writer's Room Recap. Dungeons and Dorm Rooms is set in the city of High Rest, the capital city of a province of the same name, at the prestigious Arcane University. The story follows a trio of young students attending their first year in magical education.
William Bloodscream is a corn-fed farm boy turned arcane fighter from the far north of High Rest. He's the proud son of a human father and a long-absent orc mother. He came to the university to learn the mysterious magic passed down from his mother's side, and hopes to learn about his ancestors' famous defeat at the hands of a powerful archmage, and to recover a clan artifact that was taken after the battle. Jo Greenleaf is a halfling from the Verdween province just south of High Rest. Jo is the daughter of an herb farmer, wise in herb lore, and when tragedy struck her home 6 months ago, she turned to powers greater than herself to save her people. Although she was too late to save her family, Jo escaped with magic granted by a powerful being and a mandate to educate herself in its use. Lastly, there are a few better words to describe V than chaotic. Hailing from, as he frequently claims with no elaboration, the woods, V is a half-elven warlock whose archfey patron is even more unpredictable than he is. Although often the instigator of hapless mania, V has more recently shown himself to be a deeply empathetic individual. That said, he never lets that get in the way of being the life of the party, or the beginning of one.
Our cast of players are joined by a few emotional support NPCs and friends that share in the adventure and studies. First up is Rip, a human wizard and overly studious ball of anxiety attending the university to study conjuration magic. The gang met Rip early in the adventure, and although he's difficult to part from his own work, he's always ready to help hit the books. Another study break fixture is Drusilla, a soft-spoken drow shadow sorcerer. The party was grouped with her for their very first class project at the university. Though distant at first, Drew is an empathetic and loyal friend. Last but not least is Trouble, a tiefling bard attending the College of Glamour. Trouble found the gang eating breakfast and sat down to avoid an overzealous friend. The gang took to her antics and melodrama, and she is rarely absent from their adventures.
Our heroes in training begin their story like so many college students have, meeting RAs, attending floor meetings, and being assigned a group project in the first week by the ever-so-slightly unhinged Professor Marlowe. The gang hits the books with their new acquaintance, and Drew departs early while our caffeine-driven heroes finish their research. The evening passes uneventfully, with the notable exception of a couple violent books animated by V's mischievous patron, Arzimal. After an unmitigated disaster of a presentation, William makes some friends on the city watch to practice swordplay, and the gang hits their first party at the Arcane University. There, they meet Jenny, a cleric of the Goddess of Death. Rounding out the first arc of the story, William, V, Jo, and Trouble ignore university rules and explore the cursed woods near campus. While searching some ruins at the center of the woods, William pockets a signet ring with a sigil of 2 serpents coiling around each other. One abandoned tower and a few strange noises later, the gang runs screaming from the woods, unnerved, but unharmed. That night, V dreams of a mysterious woman who learns that events in High Rest warrant her presence. He sees her gathering her things and her courage as she leaves the room, and the curtain closes on Chapter 1.
Chapter 2 sees our plucky young adventurers hitting the books again, albeit not quite so literally. William's roommate Remy comes to the group in a panic, begging for help. They follow him to the library, where they do battle with some accidentally on purpose summoned mephits. In the course of the battle, Jo causes the appearance of a spectator, a type of beholder. William, Jo, V, and Rip manage to defeat the creature. In the aftermath, the librarian summons Professor Marlowe, who explains to the party that the appearance of the spectator and its kind is a recent occurrence. Marlowe suspects that something is wrong with magic, and asserts that it may have to do with the currents of magical energy mages draw power from, also known as ley lines. Chapter 2 wraps up as Jo explores the loss of her home and family 6 months ago at the hands of a beholder she believes she dreamt into existence. Marlowe, as much as he can, takes her under his wing and tells her he will look into the unusual magic phenomena that she's experienced.
Chapter 3 of Dungeons and Dorm Rooms opens with unsettling news from the north. Some of William's friends on the city watch are called away to the northern regions of High Rest to secure the border against some unknown conflict. Back at the university, William presses a sleep-deprived Rip to lighten his course load. Rip grudgingly agrees, but has difficulty delivering on his promise. Elsewhere, V volunteers to be a test subject for a new spell that Trouble is working on, and for a few minutes, every third word he speaks comes out as the braying of a donkey. The group attends a party hosted by the Necromancy Department to stave off the impending dread of midterms. The Necromasquerade features another appearance by Jenny and some friction between Drew and Trouble. Drew takes issue with Trouble's constant penchant for the dramatic and finds her seeming need to be involved in other people's business infuriating. Conversely, Trouble mistakes Drew's apparent meekness for a lack of agency. Elsewhere at the party, V meets Amazad, a Githzerai who has been tailing the party for a few days. Before V can ask them why, an unknown student begins firing spells into the crowd. The party and Jenny spring into action, and combat reveals that the student was possessed by a shadow demon. The creature is defeated, and Joe discovers a symbol of two intertwined snakes fading from the student's neck. Jenny reveals that she's been investigating some similar strange happenings around the city. The chapter closes with the disappearance of V's roommate, a furbolg named Perrin. V discovers a heavily marked abyssal symbol drawn on Perrin's notes, the same symbol that was on the possessed student and the ring that William found in the Cursewood.
The curtain rises for Chapter 4 with the introduction of D&DR's first guest character, the half-elven cleric Aurelian, one of Jenny's colleagues. With his help, the party searches for Perrin and investigates reports of unusually violent animals in a lawless part of town called Seedy Hollow. After dodging some of the local crime syndicate called the Vipers, the party encounter a feral goat demon called a Bulazau in a warehouse littered with horrifically mutilated creatures. A possessed Perrin makes a brief appearance, but escapes as the party is forced to deal with a swarm of demonic rats and the Bulazau. The party is victorious and regroup at the university. They rest and set off to find Perrin the next afternoon. On advice from the Vipers, the party takes to the Undercity, where they encounter Amazad and shortly thereafter meet Sophia, the woman from V's dream in Chapter 1. Amazad has been following the party for some time because they believe the party is connected to the demonic activity. Sophia is mysteriously knowledgeable about everyone present, with the notable exception of William. The party, Sophia, Amazad, and Jenny search the Undercity for Perrin. Eventually, they come to a strange well of power, where they encounter Perrin and a number of hellish goat creatures. The B-team catches up with the party just in time, and together they repel the swarm of enemies. In the course of the combat, Joe unleashes a strange power on instinct and expels the Bulazau from V's roommate. Together, they defeat the creature and rescue an unconscious Perrin. The party realizes that the Well of Power is the product of a ley line that runs near the planar fabric, and speculate that the demons may be trying to do something with it. They decide that Marlowe's suspicion about a wrongness with magic is the result of the demon's action. Their new acquaintance Sophia reveals that the order she belongs to has a limited capacity to know the future. She alludes cryptically to an impending disaster, but asserts that her knowledge of it must be kept secret until the time is right if she is to avoid altering events towards an even worse outcome. As the party heads back to the university, she reveals that answers can be found in the university's foundations. The curtain closes on Chapter 4 as the party returns Perrin to campus for medical attention.
The team takes a few deep breaths in Chapter 5 as the rash of demonic activity seems to subside. Their respite is short-lived, however, as midterms are rapidly approaching. True to character, Rip has overloaded his schedule again and looks like hell. William gets on him about it, and Rip snaps at him. Later, William meets with his philosophy professor Hawthorne, who reveals that his ancestor was responsible for defeating the Orcish clans led by William's ancestor. He promises to look into the disappearance of the clan artifact. Meanwhile, Joe goes looking for Trouble and finds her rehearsing for an upcoming dance showcase. They discuss Drusilla and relationships, and Trouble apologizes for her behavior at the Necromasquerade. Later that week, the gang attend Trouble's performance, and Rip begins to realize he has feelings for her. The group's RAs invite them to a beach party in one of the dorms, and V invites Perrin, who reveals that he no longer feels at home outdoors after the possession. Perrin agrees to attend, at V's urgings. Elsewhere, at Sophia's prompting, Joe finds Drew in the library, upset and overwhelmed. Joe confronts Drew, who reveals some of the casual cruelty she experiences as a drow in the overworld. The gang take their midterms, gather their friends, and head to the aforementioned party to discover that their RAs have turned one of the dorm lounges into an actual beach. Trouble and Rip share a dance. Perrin enjoys himself outside again, and Trouble curses the student who was rude to Drew with one of her more embarrassing custom spells. Chapter 5 closes as Drew and Trouble reconcile, and the party enjoys some much-needed recreation time.
This brings us to the current chapter of Dungeons and Dorm Rooms. Our fledgling adventurers pass their midterms, and William discovers that more of the city watch is being sent to the north. Amazad reveals that an army of Githyanki have invaded, and is shocked that William doesn't know. William is worried about his father, who lives near the conflict and intends to find someone to scry on him. V and Drew visit the university foundations and are perplexed to find only uncut stone. Meanwhile, Sophia approaches William to explain that in every permutation of the events she has seen, he has not been present. This means that she can discern nothing about the role he will play, and this frightens her. William believes that she's trying to tell him that he does not belong, and refuses to be pushed away from his friends. Marlowe takes Jo in trouble to visit Jo's patron, the Kieran, who reveals that Jo's trouble with magic is due to the corruption the Kieran drew out of her. The Kieran tells her that she must learn to harness the same power that she used on Perrin to help her patron.
Well, there you have it. Now you're all caught up. That's the story of Dungeons and Dorm Rooms so far. If you want to see where the story goes, check us out every Wednesday at 6 p.m. Pacific on twitch.tv/ruleoflore. Thanks so much for watching this first ever Writer's Room recap, and we look forward to seeing you the next time you decide to come roll with us.